All right, we're recording. Hello and welcome, everyone. I am so excited to have Sumi Krishnan on the line today. Um, this these past couple of weeks have really been about entrepreneurship, and I could think of no better person to talk about entrepreneurship than my friend Sumi. Sumi is the founder of Entrepreneurs Rising. She is a very successful entrepreneur who's founded her own eight-figure company. And so I really wanted to get Sumi onto the line today and to share with you her story, because I feel like sometimes when we're working our way in the corporate grind or doing our thing in schools, at home with family, with kids, we can sometimes think that that's our whole world and forget that there's a whole other way that we can be operating and creating a life that we desire. And I know that Sumi is going to inspire you to think a little bit differently about how you want to work and how you want to live. So with that, Sumi, thank you so much for coming today. I'm so happy to talk with you.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and the backstory to how you got to creating an amazing business and starting Entrepreneurs Rising?
Okay, so I started my first company, which is K4 Solutions, as a teenager. I was literally 19 years old, and I was in college studying engineering, and I, I had seen my dad. He was an entrepreneur, and he had built a business growing up. So I think I had that in my blood somewhere. And I decided to get together with a couple of my engineering buddies, and we formed our, we put together our skill sets to basically market our skill sets as engineers and, IT people to government agencies here in the US, that we could serve public programs. So we started basically, I remember the first thing I did when I was like 19 is writing a proposal for the Department of the Interior to serve on Indian reservations to help them figure out, how to write their algorithm to place doctors in the reservation. So we just started doing that. And I didn't know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but something in me kept leading me back into that direction. And I worked, for someone else for 2 years, and then came back and I actually started to grow K4, and then it took off. And so after a year of, not really seeing any results, because the entrepreneurship journey, it's never like all rainbows, right? I worked for a whole year, saw no results, and literally, actually, Siobhan, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I was about to quit. I actually sat down. Yeah, I sat down with my father because, I was so young. He was my main mentor. And I said, Dad, it's not working. Like, I have been trying to grow this company for a year. I think it's just time for me to go. And, I've always had a heart for coaching and teaching. So I said, I think I'm going to go be a high school math teacher and give up on this dream of building this company. It was like, okay, well, that's what's going on. And then the very next day ended up getting a phone call that led to our first major contract, which led to $2 million in revenue in the next 2 years.
Wow.
So yeah, so it was a pretty big turning point. And it's like, you never know what's going to happen in life and business. And I say that just to hopefully inspire anyone listening that, on your entrepreneurship journey, outward results are not, that you can see in this given moment, are not indicative of where you can go. And so, so many more examples of that in my journey. But anyways, built the business. Now we have like 220 employees working for us. And we're serving some of the most important programs, I think, in the public arena in this country. And I started to feel like I wanted to work, after doing this for a while, it's like, I'm a creative, and I was like, okay, what else is there that I wanted to work on? And so then I recently started Entrepreneurs Rising, which is basically a global community of other women entrepreneurs dedicated to growing businesses and making a social impact at the same time. Because one of the things that, is crystal clear to all of us right now is how much it seems to be rising to the top sort of people's consciousness. Like, we can't ignore what's going on in the world right now. And so much of our effort, I think a lot of our effort can be if we come together as women entrepreneurs, and we can make an impact in these areas of climate change and clean water and, immigration issues and just like so many of the issues affecting many of our countries in a way that's much more powerful when we come together. So that's what Entrepreneurs Rising is all about.
Super awesome. And I love how you thank you for sharing that story about almost quitting, because I think a lot of us assume that the path is always going to be smooth and it's going to be upward and it is all rainbows and it's easy for everybody else. So it's good to know that you also face these similar struggles, right? Because often we can think, oh, it's so easy for her, she can do it because she's got, XYZ, but I don't have it. So I think it's helpful to the audience, just remember, like, if things don't go your way at first, whether you are thinking of starting a business or have started your business and you kind of got your 2 feet, like one in the corporate world, one in the entrepreneurship world, take a lead from Sumi's book and keep at it. You never know where that's going to lead you. And the very next day you might get your
absolutely right.
Yeah.
It just takes one,
It just takes one. And so it seems like you've always had a view and a heart towards meaningful work, which is something that I know a lot of my clients come to me with, saying, I want to do something more meaningful. I don't just want to, balance books or, make the company that I'm working for richer. I want to do something more meaningful. And it sounds like you already were doing something meaningful, and now you're doing something, I know, that's very passionate and like close to your heart with Entrepreneurs Rising. How have you navigated those choices and decisions around, taking the leap, what to focus on, where to pivot, where to change? I'm curious what the mindset of an 8-figure business owner is when it comes to mapping out your next steps.
Yeah, that's such a great question. So I think one of the big lessons that I've learned in my journey is how important it is to make decisions from a place of alignment, right? So you ask yourself, when you're first starting off, I think a lot of us run into this trap of fastest path to cash, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it's even marketed, like, what's the fastest path to cash? Like, how are you going to, it's all about, how are you going to bring in the revenue. And while that's all good, like, I am a full supporter of, high revenue, high profits, and high impact. But if you approach decisions from that place, you're never going to make the right decision. Like, the decision cannot be about the money. And that's my experience and my opinion in my own life and in watching, so many other successful entrepreneurs. Because ultimately it's about sort of who we want to be and the life we want to lead, and not about the money. The money will not, it's so cliche, but the money doesn't fulfill you. So it's about creating the life that you desire for yourself and thinking about decisions in the framework of, what's the impact I want to have? What's the impact of this versus the impact of that? And creating from that standpoint. A quick story. In the beginning of my career, yes, I was focused on meaningful work, but I didn't yet know, I wasn't practiced enough in what was in alignment for me as a woman leader, as a woman business owner, right? I wasn't practiced to think, what is it that, what do I feel in this situation? What's my intuition saying? Instead, I was all masculine all the time. I thought that the way to success was to be a robot and heads down, get it done, push through, work late, work harder than everybody else. And I have this moment where, I laugh about, like, literally I was living Groundhog's Day, coming home every day late at night, plopping down on my couch with my tub of Thai takeout food in my hands by myself, watching whatever I had DVR'd that evening. And as I'm like eating it, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, so that I got to that point, unhappy, overweight, stressed, overwhelmed, but I was very financially successful, right? And so I can speak from personal experience that is not the path you want to go on. Like, that's not the path you go on, right? So those decision making now, I would say it's from what's the impact I want to make and what's the life I want to lead.
Beautiful. I love that. And thank you for sharing, because that's, as you're talking about that tub of Thai takeout, like, I can relate to that. It was like coming home after work and like, same thing. What am I working so hard for? Totally the same energy as you, like, get it done, masculine, stay later than everyone, be there earlier. And it served a purpose, right? Like, it does help you get quote unquote successful, but then you're like, now what? So for a woman who's in that position, so if you're watching and you're like, that is me, I'm in this Groundhog Day, I just do the same thing. Okay, I'm financially okay, but there's something more, there's something else. And she might be thinking of starting a business. Like what advice do you have to her? How can she start to navigate this next step for herself? Because it could be quite overwhelming.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the most important thing is to think about who you want to serve, right? Like who is, what's driving you to think about starting this business? There's clearly some impact you want to make, right? Or some problem that you see. And I think a lot of times we actually don't give ourselves credit for this because like I have an idea right now in my head that's too in its infancy to share, but I see this like, oh, if we as a society, as a community would do this, things would be different. And I think a lot of us as creatives, as visionaries, as women actually have these intuitive hits, but we're kind of trained not to trust them. Totally. And it may not make logical sense, right? Or it may not make sense to anybody else except you. Yes. But the key is that you have that hit. And so it's sort of like, I mean, one of the keys, I think, to ask yourself if you're looking to start a company or if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur or going off on your own, it's like, what's like trusting that hit? Like you've got that hit. You have either that idea or that problem. And so the first thing you got to do is trust that.
I think that's so true. We're so taught to like squash down those intuitive hits, be practical, be logical. And yeah, I know I've done that many, many times in my career and even in my business as well. It's been like, oh, why am I going in this direction? This is the proven path. But you've got to have that alignment piece, right? Like you were talking about.
Absolutely. And, I'm really inspired by Wonder Woman. And like the scene where she says she's going to, cross the land of the lost and he's like, no, it's off mission. We have to stay on mission. And I was like, that's a perfect representation of like the masculine and the feminine. He's like, we have a mission. We have to stay on mission. We're not going to help these people because it's a lost cause. Like they've been here for 10 years without any luck. Like we're not going to help them and then therefore lose our mission. But she had this intuitive hit, like, no, she needed to help this woman. She needed to help. And, she goes, and of course that was the key to them actually succeeding in their mission. So I think it's trusting when no one else can see. I think that's one of the keys to entrepreneurship, and working on that within yourself is so important.
Yeah. And that can be really hard, right? Especially if you've not been an entrepreneur before and you don't have proof of concept and you don't know that you're going to be successful. It's hard to cultivate that confidence, which is why I think for you, those of you listening, I've known Sumi for like the last 5 years. We were in a coaching program way back when, and I was always blown away by Sumi because she's like a proper business owner and she also has a heart, like always been interested in social issues and creating this meaningful change on the planet. And I think, yeah, it can be hard to build that confidence, but you need people around you, right? Like who kind of say, yeah, you can do this. It's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely key. I mean, no one can do it on their own. I don't personally think, no one I know at least, I'm sure there are examples, but it's so powerful to have a community of people around you who, even if they don't see what you see, they support the fact that you see it, right?
Yes.
And they help with keeping you going.
Super critical. So for a woman who's thinking about starting a business and she's it feels like, I always feel like there's like two things she's grappling with. It's like, okay, if I do this, I need to make money and replace my corporate salary. That's always in the back of the mind because you feel like you've got to maintain.
You've got to make ends meet. Yeah.
You've got to make ends meet. So that's about building a company with an eye towards the bottom line.
Right.
And then there's also the other side of the woman who's got that intuitive hit. Maybe you have a business idea, for those of you listening, or you feel called to something more and you don't know what that is. And you want to perhaps build a company that's really aligned to who you are and make an impact in the world. What would you say is the difference between the two, and how can a woman navigate between those two parts of her that she's grappling with as she thinks about, okay, what is my next step? Am I going to do this?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. So I think the thing is, look, to actually build a successful business, there are tactics, strategies, things you need to go out there in the world and do, right?
Mm.
And but in order, what's the main reason people fail in business? It's because of the lack of consistency, right? It's because of the lack of belief or the lack of consistency, or which leads to a lack of resourcefulness. So if you have a strong belief and you're consistently taking action because that strong belief is propelling you forward, you will think of ideas. You will think of how to be resourceful in situations, right? How to collaborate with people, new ways to solve this problem that you're running into at this point, right? Like, honestly, I think that the only reason people don't succeed is because it's the mental game. They give up. They think that outward signs are saying it's not meant to be, without trusting, their vision, without the belief you're not going to be able to take that outward action. So you might think you failed because you weren't at the right place at the right time, or you didn't meet so-and-so, or you don't have that connection, or you didn't have enough money to start. You might think but you will solve all of those problems if you have the inner work done. Does that make sense? So to answer your question, like, how do you balance making money with making impact? Well, the thing is, like, you will make money if you focus on whatever it is that's going to give you that juice to keep going, that you will make that money. Like, I hate to make it sound so black and white, because of course, like 98% of businesses fail, right? But I think that's because 98% of people ignore the inner work. That's my experience.
And I love that. And thank you for sharing, because I think it is the inner work, and we can think that it's tactics and strategies and what we're doing, but you've got to have, I love that, the belief and the conviction and the consistency. I think that is super key. And I love that you're sharing this, Sumi, because, for me as a coach and somebody who helps people with the mindset stuff, it's one thing, but to hear it from you as somebody who's actually done that, you've created this 8-figure business, you have 220 employees, and for you to say, yeah, we've done all of the strategy and you manage team, but it's the inner game, it's the inner work. So those of you listening, yes, okay, if you're thinking of starting a business, or you want to make it do something more meaningful, really take this in. You don't need to have the resources. What Sumi is saying, you just need the resourcefulness to fuel that vision, to fuel that passion, to fuel that intuitive hit that you're getting. So channel that inner Wonder Woman.
So true.
Yeah. And I think that's so important to know, because we always want to blame other things, right? And it's resources, right? Their time, their money, don't have the
I'll give a quick example. Like, when I was, so I said, I shared that how I was trying to build K4 for a full year with no outward results, right? And so one of the things so for a full year of working, I almost quit, almost gave up. And then the next day, a contract came in that led to $2 million of revenue. And one of the things I did during that year, speaking of resourcefulness, right? Like, I had that belief, like, I kept it for a full year, right? I'm not saying every day it was at 100, but I knew that, like, I had this inner, like, I'm going to build this thing. Like, I'm going to build it. I'm going to build it. I'm going to make it succeed. I didn't ever give up. And until that 11th hour, I was like, well, maybe I'm done. Right. But before that, one of the things I did was, this $2 million contract came in because I was working with a potential client who wanted me to have, or my company, who was just me at the time, to have experience in Medicare. I don't have experience in Medicare, right? Like, and I literally was like, oh, experience in Medicare. Well, these are the things, when you have that belief, it gives me goosebumps to see how things are sort of like come up to the surface. So I heard that I need to have experience in Medicare, wrote it down in my notebook, right? And then like shortly after that, I remembered, wait a minute, at my sister's birthday event 2 weeks prior, I met a guy who was working at a Medicare think tank. And I was like, researched Medicare policies all day long. And so I said,
Perfect.
I know. And so I called him up, and he basically ended up collaborating with me. And I came up again with a creative idea of how to collaborate because I couldn't pay him. So I said, if we win this contract, maybe you can earn something off of that. And he was willing to do that. And so we wrote this big proposal as experts in Medicare. But, if you don't have that belief, if I didn't have that belief, I wouldn't have had that determination to go create this solution, right? So that's why I'm all about it.
That's such a beautiful example. And I think that's true. It's almost like tuning into a frequency, right? Like you could have been like, this is not working. And all you get as the outer response is like, it's not working. And that's all you were seeing. But I love how you tuned in with that belief. It's like, oh my God, I met somebody, I can do this. And then it's not a question of like, oh, I'm a failure, I can't do this. It's like, how can I make this work? And it's that whole growth versus fixed mindset, which my kids are learning in school but at the moment, by the way. It's so cool. And it's like, no, how can I figure this out? So I love that. And honestly, your resourcefulness is so inspiring because I know that this is really supported you because you've not only just done K4, right, and Entrepreneurs Rising. I know you had a CrossFit gym. You've been like consulted with like social media and stuff, marketing way back when.
Started a few businesses.
Started a few businesses. Yeah. Side note, Sumi is a badass CrossFitter. When I met her in Sydney, we were at an event. We went to a CrossFit class together and I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll come along. And we woke up really early. It was like 5 a.m. And this girl can lift. She's amazing. You're like all glamorous and everything. And then like a powerhouse with the weights. And I'm like,
she's being really generous. And CrossFit standards, I am not a badass, but I receive that.
Receive. That's good. Awesome. So let's wrap it up. Like for those who are thinking of starting a business and questioning, okay, is this the right move? What advice do you have for them? How can they think through this process of, am I doing the right thing? How can I take this forward? What would you say?
Well, we have this framework called the Big C. And I think, you can ask yourself, all right, what do you believe in? The B, Big C, right? What do you believe in? What problem do you want to solve, right? Then, who else do you want to solve that with you? So that could be like, who do you want to serve? Like, for example, if you are a graphic designer or something and you're working at an agency, if you want to start your own firm, like, well, what kind of people do I want to serve? What kind of problems do I want to work on? So, like, do you want to create a graphic agency that supports charities working on clean water, or so what kind of problem do you want to solve? And then who do you want to solve it for? Who do you want to solve it with you or for? And then so it's like the Big C framework is the I is invite those people in, talk to them, right? So before you go and make the leap, Siobhan, I know you talk about this a lot in your work, like talk to those people, figure out, like have conversations, get out of your own mind, right? Where you can make up a million scenarios of what people want or don't want. Talk to people who you want to serve. Invite them in to have a conversation with you or whatever it is. Give to them your ideas. Give to them your gifts. Offer some things. Say, hey, if I worked on this problem in this way, would this be helpful? Have that conversation. Give to them, and care about them. Care about their feedback. Care about them as a person when you're talking to them, and then you start to get data, and you say, okay, so could this be viable? How do I have to tweak it, right? Because it's not about the if, it's the how. So if this is something that you're getting the intuitive hit about, you're going to figure out like what form it's going to take as long as you keep that belief and you keep inviting people in, keep giving and caring about them, you'll come to something that, okay, you've got some proof that this could work, and then you can have better data to take the leap.
Oh my God, I love that. You have a tweetable there. It's not a question of if, it's a question of how.
It's so true.
I love it. Those are your words, my friend. You said that. I'm going to take that. But that's so beautiful. And I love what you're saying. Like, start with the belief, invite people in, give, and then care, and you get the data points, and you're so true. It gets you out of your head, which is like, oh, what if this happens? They're not going to like this and stuff. And you get the data, and it's like, this is what is, and you work with that.
Trust me, being in your head, iterating, because you all have good brains. Like I'm pretty sure all of your
ladies are very smart.
People are very smart, right? I like to say you have good brains. Like our brains can make up all these great scenarios of what might happen and do a bunch of, or various situations that we can fantasize about. But the thing is, unless you bring it into reality and have those conversations with people, like we can talk ourselves in or out of anything, and it doesn't really mean much unless we bring it into reality.
I love that. Love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. If you're thinking about this idea, think about this Big C framework. What do you believe in? Who do you want to invite into the conversation? What problem do you want to solve? Who do you want to do this for? Give and care, and get that feedback, get that data so that you can take your next step. I think that's such a beautiful mindset, right? Of like testing, tweaking, getting feedback, and not taking everything so seriously and personally as like, oh, I'm failing, or means I'm not good enough. I love that you've shared that.
It's a learning framework, and it's like, it's like your self-worth becomes based on how well you're able to like learn instead of how well you are.
Oh, that is amazing. I think that's a really important distinction, because so often we put our self-worth on what it is we're achieving and the outward result. And that just sets us up for massive failure, super massive failure. Okay, cool. So for those of you listening, if you're like, ooh, I'm really intrigued, I think I might want to start a business, you may have an idea or you may not have an idea. I'd love to share a little bit about how Sumi and I are actually collaborating on something fun. Speaking of community and like, who do you want to work with and how do you want to help? We're collaborating, and we've put together an amazing online retreat that's going to walk you through how to do this. And Sumi, do you want to share a little bit about the core pillars and what we're going to cover?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm super excited about this, especially this collaboration with this amazing woman over here. So we're putting together a 4-hour space, right? So it's an online retreat because we're going to have, it's a small group of women, but they're going to be global. So it's online, 4 hours, Sunday, October 28th. And we're going to create this space where we can walk everyone through 3 pillars that are really foundational to building a beautiful soul-aligned company, right? We talked so much already about the importance of following your feminine intuition. And that why, like what problem do you want to solve, and how to really attract people in to solve it with you. So basically it's it's funny because I'm realizing that a lot of what I just talked about are what I consider the 3 pillars to this, right? And what we're offering as the 3 pillars. So the first one is feminine leadership. The second one is social impact. And the third one is sales and branding.
Love that. And look, the social impact is a really important pillar that I don't think many of us give enough credit to. Like, I think we all have a heart to do something meaningful. And part of the reasons why I wanted to collaborate with Sumi is not just she's got a beautiful heart. She's obviously really smart, knows how to build a business. But one thing we missed is that, Sumi's always had a heart for creating social change. And that's been there since clearly you were a teenager to now. And I've witnessed Sumi really commit to that. Like, how can I kind of support more women in this and create the social change? And last year, Sumi actually pursued full-time studies and did her MPA at Harvard. Was it Harvard Kennedy School?
Yeah.
Get my tongue. Yeah. Dedicated towards understanding how we can create social change. And so, we're really excited to collaborate because yes, we want the soul alignment piece. Yes, we want you to feel anchored, but then you want to also know how you can make the greatest impact and how you can create a living for yourself doing that too, which is why we've put it all together in this way. And it's something we wish we had when we first met 5 years ago, to be honest.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, because building a business this way, I think what lights both of us up on this is building a business this way is so important for real success and fulfillment. It's not just about the money, and it's not just about, being a do-gooder and being poor. It's how do you really empower yourself in all facets and make that impact and step into your greatest power. And, Siobhan and I are actually going to be walking the women in this retreat through a process to really design a 50K offer, which I'm really excited about that, because I think that, it's really important, like as someone who really cares, to also claim that money is important and that you need the income to make a difference, and that we need to claim our places in power. And that includes having financially successful businesses.
Totally. So important. And it goes back to what you said earlier, Sumi, which is like, don't focus on the income, focus on the impact, and the income will then come. So it's like making sure.
Oh, that's focus. A tweetable. That's
what you said, my friend. I'm just repeating what you said. So many juicy words.
And the income will then come. I love that.
Exactly. So it's not a question of if, it's how. Ooh, so consistent. Your consistency is showing up, which is beautiful. So if you're interested in this retreat, you want to go check it out, just head on over to the website, soulalignedcompany.com/retreat. That's soul as in your soul, soulalignedcompany/retreat. The link will be below this video. But we really do invite you in to really lay a strong foundation for this next iteration. Whether you're thinking of starting a business, you already have started your business, or just really want to make sure you're building something meaningful, then definitely come along and check it out.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
If this retreat sounds interesting to you, I think Siobhan mentioned, like, it's really designed for you, whether you are an existing entrepreneur or whether you're thinking about being an entrepreneur. So I know, I think, Siobhan, a lot of the women in your community are not entrepreneurs. And I think that's what's so special about this retreat, is that it serves that clarity too. It'll help you with that clarity as well.
Totally. And also help you come into community, right, with other women who are thinking differently. Because I know for me in the corporate world, like this whole world, this has been one of the greatest gifts, like seeing that there's a whole other world out there, and it's not just, who's in your office on that floor, on that section of the, that floor plan. It's like there's a whole other world, and a whole other online world out there. And it would be such a privilege to introduce you to that, and, meet some like-minded people who think differently to you, who are like, maybe there is a different way.
Oh my gosh, totally. Yeah. Totally. And there is a different way, you guys. There is a different way. I think, it's what I'm most passionate about right now.
Yeah, for sure. So check out the retreat, soulalignedcompany.com/retreat. And also check out Sumi at Entrepreneurs Rising as well. She does some awesome work she's got a Facebook group, and she does some coffee and conversations. So you can actually ask Sumi some more questions if you've got any. But yeah, it's been such a pleasure, Sumi. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. And yeah, to all of you listening, whatever you decide, just go for it. There's no one in the world who can do what you do the way you do it, and we want you to shine your light.
Love it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Siobhan.
Bye.